Okay, the beginning. The beginning. Yeah, the beginning. So Sebastian was born February 15th, 2019. He was a healthy baby. My baby mama had a very healthy pregnancy, no complications, nothing like that. Born at 6:38 p.m., 20 inches, 8.3 pounds. Healthy kid. Nothing was really out of the ordinary with him. He wasn't a picky eater. He wasn't one of those like only organic milk or formula eaters. He wasn't one of those. He was just a regular baby. He is a regular kid, but as far as people want to know, the beginning, like you didn't notice anything, like all of that was normal. He never used a pacifier. He slept through the night. Obviously, there were those nights where he didn't, but for the most part, he slept through the night. Like happy, just a happy little kid, laughed, smile, did all that kid stuff, played with toys, loves Jacks, all the things. He walked extra early. He barely crawled. And yeah, he was just a happy kid. There was nothing that I would change about that. He excelled in physical things very fast. So he was just strong immediately, which is why I say he didn't really crawl. He got up quickly and was running down the halls extra early. And it wasn't until he was about between 2 and 3, we started noticing things. And with my background, a little background about me, one of the most rewarding jobs I have ever had was working with children with disabilities. And it had a focus with working with children on the spectrum, which is kind of cool because it plays into all of this. And so I noticed some things he was doing, some typical kid things. He had a lot of OCD about where he put things, or if he had toys lined up and you moved one, it was like the world was crumbling if you moved it. He liked to play alone. When I have a lot of little cousins and he liked to play alone. But the biggest thing for me was that his speech wasn't developing as fast as, say, my little cousins were. So they're over here having full-blown conversations with me at 3 years old. And I'm like, Sebastian is just saying one-word things. For example, if he wanted juice, he would say juice. If he wanted to take a bath, he would say bath. But it was never like, I want to take a bath. Hey, I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. When my 2-year-old cousins were fully like, hey, Steph, how are you? So that was one of the things that autism is typically, it's one of those, what would you say, symptoms, I guess you would say. And again, I don't want to go through the whole gambit of what are the signs and symptoms. This is about Sebastian, me, everybody involved in his story, his specifics, because there's a lot of things. I mean, there's like self-harm, there's the tantrums, there's nonverbal, there's kids who are limited in their ability to communicate. And that was the biggest thing for me. And another hurdle for me was in working in the field, I had a hard time when I would work with children who were like 18 months old. Like, how do you know that they're on the spectrum? They're 18 months old. Give them a chance to be a kid. Let them develop on their own. And then if there comes a point in time, then get them tested. But I feel like at 18 months old, I was just playing with a baby crawling on the ground. There was no way I could implement their tasks into anything. I couldn't. They're a baby. You know what I'm saying? And so that was my mentality going into it with Sebastian. And I know that some parents, they experience, it's hard to say this, but some parents are in denial. They're ashamed. They're embarrassed about their child possibly having, a handicap or anything like that, a disability. And for me, it was nothing of that nature. It was that I wanted to give him time. I wanted to give him time to grow on his own. Maybe his speech would have came. Maybe it was just in there and he just needed to get it out. I didn't know, but I didn't want to test him at 1.5, 2. And, as he got older, it was like, okay, we probably should get him tested because he still wasn't formulating sentences. He would have tantrums that were almost uncontrollable. And you could not console him because for me, I think he's a speech baby. once he's able to tell you what he wants, what he doesn't want, even now it's a lot better and easier to get him to transition to things or get him to listen to directions and follow steps, because now he's understanding. And so for him at a young age, not being able to communicate, his way of saying, I don't want you to turn off the TV, I was watching that, is to yell and throw a remote, because he has no other way to communicate that to anybody. His way of doing that was throwing himself on the ground, or, things like that, running up and hitting a wall. He would do stuff like that, which looking back is kind of funny, but it's not, because he was so frustrated that he could not tell you what he wanted, that he was just dealing with it how he knew how to. So those were the things about Sebastian that were kind of like, okay, maybe we should get him tested. And that carried on through, he was 3, and Sam and I were like, okay, it's probably time now, because I feel like that was enough time for him to become a kid and see if it was going to happen on its own. Because I believe that in this day and age, people are testing too quickly and too young. People are medicating too quickly and too young. And you have these zonked out kids. They're like zombies. Like, you're having kids, oh, they have ADHD. And I'm not saying that that's not a real thing. And I'm not saying that anything's not real. But it's just like, you have a 3-year-old on Ritalin. Kids I barely pay attention. I just feel like you need to give kids a chance to be a kid and then address it then. So a lot of the questions that I get were, what were the signs? What were some of the things? Other things, he's a texture boy. He doesn't like his hands dirty, which again, it's kind of like some kids are just that way. He is very particular about what he eats, how he eats it. He's a routine boy. If you throw him out of his routine, it's like his world is melting. And the way that I see autism is they just see the world differently. And that's why when I deal with him, you have to have patience, not punishment, right? You have to slow down and really try to see, like, okay, why are you upset? Like, how can I help you? And it's like, oh, you want me to move your stuffed animal to the left a half an inch. And you do it. And then he's just like, thank you. So it's just little things like that. There were no huge things that stood out that screamed autism as it pertains to him. Like I said, like the self-injurious behavior, the trying to like injure people. That's one. Bolting, he never really did any of that. He just didn't do a lot of like the typical like stemming, like the stemming. Some kids do this and they stem off of different things, whether it be bubbles in the air or their own hands, spinning in circles, walking on their tippy toes, things like that. He didn't exhibit a lot of like the classic signs, but as far as, the communication, the limited communication, the tantrums, just the limited ways that he was able to communicate and understand, his receptive communication was also just like not there. And so those were the signs, those were the symptoms that we experienced with him. And I know a lot of people ask, so there you have it. That was the beginning. Like, that was the beginning of, this was like the first step. That was the opening the door to the first step of this whole entire journey, is not necessarily realizing there's a problem, but you definitely have to realize that there's something going on and be an adult enough to say, okay, I'm going to help my child. I'm going to do anything I can to make your world easier for you, because your world is different than mine. And that's what we did. That's what we did. Yeah, so the beginning. You got it. You guys asked for it. There it is.